Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
I try and get to the bottom of the truth.
And he's not the only one.
I've gone all through my life, from a very young age, being aware of spirit.
Something's down there. It's really a quest to find out the truth behind what happens to us whenever we pass over.
An ancient settlement dating back to the 1600s. Some say the spirits of its past still reside here.
I hadn't actually ever seen anything until I started working in the Bawn.
Oh, he doesn't like me up here. Get out, he's saying to me, get out.
There we go.
They believe. The question is, do you?
Can you knock twice for me? Now.
Psychic investigator Andy Matthews is on his way to what's reputed to be the oldest haunted house in County Derry.
I'm an evidence gatherer, so I'll collate and collect whatever evidence I can get through myself, through Marion, our medium, through our investigation team. I think Northern Ireland is probably one of the most haunted places in the world. It's got a magical mystery about it, you know, the myths and legends. It's just dripping with history. And I was really surprised, actually, how open to the paranormal the people are here. Because when you come across something that you don't fully understand, your natural reaction is to find an alternative explanation for it. Oh, that was me. It happens.
Bellaghy Bawn, a former 17th century manor under state care for the last 2 decades, is one of the 12 original Ulster plantation settlements.
It comes from 2 Irish words, bow, meaning cow, and dun, meaning fort. And basically it functioned as a fortified courtyard, somewhere you could retreat in times of warfare.
With many of its original features still intact, the building is steeped in history. Some say the ghosts of Bellaghy's past still resonate in the walls. Andy is inclined to believe them.
It's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle, this place. It's loads of different buildings just added on. And with all the renovation work that's been going on over the years, you know, I wouldn't really be that surprised if it's disturbed certain energies within the building. So, yeah, we could be in for an interesting time here.
Cara Stewart has lived beside the Bawn all her life. She's not the only member of her family to have sensed something unusual here.
We're doing a spring clean of the Bawn for an event that was taking place later in the week. My sister was in the round tower room. She just heard little court shoes coming behind her on the wooden floor. She actually just lifted her bits and bobs, flew down the stairs.
So it's you feel as though it was a woman, obviously, because of the shoes?
Because of the shoes, yeah. Deep down, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, but I hadn't actually ever seen anything until I started working in the Bawn. I definitely believe that there's a presence in the Bawn, probably more than one.
The office where Ivan Minnis used to work has been deserted for 2 years now.
I'd be the education officer based here at the Bawn.
It's in what's known as the Wee House, a former 19th century nursery with a reputation that's far from innocent.
A few strange incidents have happened in here over the years. One occupant said they came in one morning to find everything covered in dust and no clear evidence of where it would have come from. Another described how they couldn't get into the room. The door wouldn't open. A chair had been jammed against the door from the other side.
Jammed against the door? What? Sort of, you got the door shut and it had been sort of jemmied up?
Jammed up against the door, and they had to kind of edge in, moving the chair back and back. And again, the same occupant of the office at the time described how papers were rearranged. She'd left out a set of papers ready for a presentation and found them all scattered the following morning. And no windows open, nothing like that to explain that.
Sounds like poltergeist activity. What's it been used for? Has it always been a family home? Or?
No,
300 years ago, the house where the Stewart family now live was a redcoat barracks attached to the Bawn. Poltergeist activity has never been reported here, but according to Cara, another equally strange presence has visited.
Okay, well, the house was renovated in 1997, and we'd moved back in a few weeks. I came in one night and I was washing my face when I saw the solid, well, it was more solid than a shadow, side profile of a man moving in that direction, okay? But a few seconds later, the profile, the shadow, it did come back, and I saw the other side of the profile moving in this direction.
And this wasn't frosted glass, was it? This is
no, it can't be
plain.
Because it's a listed building.
All right.
Yeah, so we can't have frosted glass.
So it would have been a distorted image. This would have been something you could have seen
No, this is
clearly.
something that I saw clearly. I actually thought it was my brother. So when I saw it, I rapped the window and I shouted, "Frankie, I'll let you in now." And there was no answer. And it was then I realised that what I saw wasn't human.
And did you come out and investigate? Did anybody come out and take a look?
I did not. Not in your life would I come out at that time in the night to investigate, so no.
In the hope of contacting at least one of the Bawn's many reported ghosts, Andy heads straight for the oldest part of the building, the tower room.
Now, I had a kind of a feeling that there was somebody here when I walked in. As I looked to my left, I got a fleeting kind of image of a colourful dress just wafting past in my peripheral vision out the corner of my eye. I'm not saying it was a ghost, it could have been a trick of the light, it could have been light coming in from the window, but it didn't startle me, it made me jump back. So that's when I decided to take centre of the floor and sit there with the dowsing rods. Do you wish to talk to me? When you're doing paranormal investigations, it's very easy to take the scientific angle all the time, you know, plug something in and switch it on. I prefer sometimes to try the more human approach, and that's just simply ask. You know, and with the dowsing rods, or divining rods, or whatever you want to call them, it's not conclusive proof of spiritual contact in any way, shape or form, but it is an interesting device. The rods themselves are just a brass rod, as you can see, with a plastic handle which turns. So it's very, very difficult, as you can see me here, trying to get them to cross. But it's I'm not sure how it works really, but it's give me a yes. There you go. Is there anybody here in this room? And talk to me. Is there a lady here? Are you a child? Oh. There was some kind of energy or electromagnetic pull that was making them spin at that speed, and as they were doing that, I could feel the charges, or like an electrical charge, like a static, going through my body, and also there was a great temperature drop on my back, and then suddenly it stopped. It was as if the lady of the house came in and took the children out, just took them away. So that's when I decided to record the experiment on my digital voice recorder. Can you talk into this and tell me your name? Is your name Peter? Patrick? The name Peter first struck me. It hit me like an idea. You know, as you know, I did train as a medium once, and sometimes when you're walking around places, you pick up names that just pop into your head, and that's literally how it happened. Having reviewed the EVP session, it sounds like when I ask the boy ghost, if you like, is your name Peter? It sounds like he's saying no. The voice does. There's some kind of sound there anyway. I need to get it checked with the NIPS boys and get it analysed, but this is it.
Your name Peter.
Here it is.
Your name Peter.
The house is a 400-year history, so there's obviously going to have been children here over the years. The Hill family, we know, had close to 30 children, of which I think 22 survived. And the Thompson family, who came into the house after them, they had 9 children. They actually used the wee house as a nursery, and also the top floor of the tower served as a kind of nursery at another point as well.
Setting up a base next door to the tower room, the Northern Ireland Paranormal Society immediately get to work analysing Andy's recording of what he's convinced is a child's voice.
I can see a slight raise in the waveforms here, so It's going to be a difficult one, but we'll give it a shot. So what I need to do first is bring the volume up a little bit to a level that I can work with. 84%. Yeah, you can definitely see it's becoming clear here. So we'll amplify that again. So you put that in context with your question.
Sounds like something else. Doesn't sound like no, does it?
Well, I think you were right the first time. I think it is no. A little bit more noise out of it. It's because it's a whisper. It's difficult to...
Well, it's a voice. It's definitely something there.
And it's definitely in response to your question. I mean, I still think it sounds like no. It's maybe a little child's voice, even.
Let's have a look at the next one.
Are you here? Are you here? Are you here?
Somebody's definitely there saying they're not here.
No.
Are you here?
Again.
Are you here? Are you here? Are you here?
Well, at least they gave us something, even if it was a no.
The message, if it is one, could indicate a refusal to talk. Fortunately, in this investigation, Andy's not the only one asking questions. Marion Goodfellow, the last member of the team, has arrived, and already she's getting a sense of Bellaghy's past.
Oh, strange place. Really, really strange place. I can smell smoke, flames, the stench of smoke and burning. Whether there was a catastrophe here or somewhere close by, I don't know.
Marion's intuitions could relate to any period from Bellaghy's 400-year history, and yet her immediate sensation of fire and panic points to one very significant event that happened here in 1641, courtesy of rebel commander Sir Phelim O'Neill.
When the rebellion broke out, the rebels came here. Apparently there was about 200 horsemen and soldiers surrounded the castle, and a few days later the rebels burnt the town and burnt the castle, and the poor settlers had to flee. Most of them, I think, survived, but they lost everything.
I feel sickness. Maybe at some time in its life it was a home to the sick, like a hospital of some kind.
Although, strictly speaking, it was never a hospital, medical operations were carried out at the Bawn by one Dr. Thompson, who lived here with his family in the early part of the 20th century.
Dr. Thompson was a great man locally, saved many lives, and there are many anecdotes told about his doctoring skills and his eccentricity at times when surgery was needed. The operations were carried out in one of the front rooms of the castle, but to supply light, the surgeon's car and the doctor's car, there's only two cars in the locality, were parked right up against the window and the lights left on.
Oh, it feels a bit better in here. Lovely place. Old. Female energy. It's a lady. I've got a really gentle soul here. Really gentle. She was here when the fire was here. Before then. She feels like she's been here forever. She's got such a lovely face. Grey hair pulled back. A few odd strands over her face. I already sensed there were soldiers on the hill, and she's watching them coming down the hill. She's got such sad memories, but happy ones too. There's no chance we'd ever get her to go anywhere else. She's here, and she's going to stay here.
Marion may be sensing a presence at the Bawn, but so far that's all it appears to be. A presence without a voice.
I really, really tried to get somebody to talk to me, and I haven't, as yet, had anyone that will come forward and say, yeah, I know the place, I'll take you round, Marion, I'll tell you what's going on.
In its day, the former nursery at the wee house was used not only by children, but also by the staff who cared for them.
I've got a soldier here. He's asking me what I want. I'm saying I don't want anything, I'm just having a look. He's an angry little man, full of his own importance. What is it about this place? Nobody wants to speak to me. Oh, he doesn't like me up here. He really doesn't like. Get out, he's saying to me, get out. I'm not supposed to be up here at all. So I'm going. He said to me, don't you go upstairs, don't go up there. And I thought, to hell with it, I'm going up there. We're having trouble in this place. Things are not coming forward to me. So, you know, yeah, I dared. It might have looked a bit disrespectful to the soldier. But, you know, we weren't getting an awful lot. So it was a matter of, you know, I'm going to push you. You know, come and stop me. Say something, do something. You know, I'm desperate here. At one time there would have been lots of books, papers. Strange. Yet it's been lived in. There's a family feeling here. I've got a small boy, 7, 8 years old. He seems to be hiding here, hiding up here. The little boy keeps coming closer and then going back. He's so unsure of himself, so afraid. Did you live here? This bloody place, nobody's speaking.
In order to coax a response from the ghostly youngsters he believes are reluctant to speak directly to the team, Andy opts for a different approach. Poltergeist activity, usually associated with children, is said to involve the unexplained movement of solid objects. Perhaps this is the key to communicating with them.
Right, what I'm going to try here is a controlled object experiment. Now, the best way to do a controlled object test is to get some kind of object that matches the era or the past history of the building. What I've got here is a Bellaghy bottle. I don't know what was in it. Long since drunk, anyway. So what I'm going to do, I'll place that there. Now, the theory of this is that if this room is their safe haven, if you place a foreign object within that haven, and the possibility is if they don't like it, they'll move it. But first I need to check that the ground... no vibration will make it move. Then I need to mark it. I usually do this with chalk, but we can't obviously in this carpet. There we go. Okay, the plan is we're going to leave that here overnight with all these cameras trained on it, and then we'll look at the footage in the morning. If it moves, we've got something that's quite amazing. If it doesn't, well, at least we tried it. Confirm that the bottle hasn't moved. Well, worth a try.
With no new leads, Andy turns to the archives in search of details that might help the paranormal team trigger a response. particularly the names of those who would have spent their childhood at Bellaghy Bawn. Later that evening, the paranormal team set up a white noise experiment based on Andy's research.
Just checking the sound in here for the microphone.
I can hear you, that's fine.
Is that good yet?
That's fine, brilliant.
Basically what white noise is a series of 20,000 tones being played at one time.
I turn the volume up there, would you?
Now, the theory is spirits don't have a voice box, so they're supposed to be able to manipulate frequencies. So what we're trying to do is give them that possibility. After the experiment, we are taking a series of photographs. The reason why we're doing that, because if there is spirits are trying to communicate and they are leaving messages, they may be in the room. So we would like to try and capture an image as well. When I finish the experiment, I'll turn the white noise off, and that's your cue to go. Okay? If there's anyone here, we ask that you come forward and talk to us. Is there any members of the Thompson family or the Hill family who wish to come forward? And if you have anything to say, please say it. Please leave us a message. We'd very much love to talk to you. Basically, we turn the lights off because it may show up some light anomalies. We know that a lot of these light anomalies are dust and insects and flakes of skin, but there's some that we do find quite interesting. So we find if the lights are knocked off, we may capture these a lot more. Calling out to Minnie, Marion, Susan.
We hope that the spirits are on the other side. They're listening to us. Maybe if they hear their name being mentioned or someone that they're closely associated with, then hopefully we can draw them a bit closer to communicate with us.
Susan, if you're here, can you please knock twice now? Can you knock twice for me now? Okay. Have we enough? Okay, yeah, good stuff. We'll get Mark to analyse that a bit later on.
The following day, Darren and Mark have interesting news. One name, and only one, has triggered a response.
I think it's something special.
I think you just play it and let me see. Go on.
Susan. Susan.
That's the name from the list I gave you of the people that occupied
Yes,
the
we stuck with Susan because Mark was picking up through the microphones that we're getting some sort of response.
And you didn't get any response with any of the other names?
Absolutely nothing else. Susan was the only name that we seemed to be getting a response with.
Can we run it again, Mark?
Susan.
But you haven't heard anything yet.
Really?
The next one I find extremely interesting. This is a first for us.
A first? Oh, okay.
Here's the question.
Can you knock twice for me now?
Okay.
Here's the answer.
Right, okay. Are you sure, you know, you want your feet could tap in or something?
I'm positive there was nothing else in the room that was making that noise.
See the waveforms of the knocks, that's untouched. The volume hasn't been touched at all, and they're nearly as loud as the speech, but yet heard nothing at the time. And you got to see too, we're watching here as well, so we can see it while it's happening. And Darren always says if there's a noise, if there's a car passing, if there's a knock, or if a foot bangs, he always calls that out.
There seems to be a bit of speech before the knock.
There's a question, and there's like a confirmation knock, then a little bit of speech, then the musical.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not a random.
Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
I try and get to the bottom of the truth.
And he's not the only one.
I've gone all through my life, from a very young age, being aware of spirit.
Something's down there. It's really a quest to find out the truth behind what happens to us whenever we pass over.
An ancient settlement dating back to the 1600s. Some say the spirits of its past still reside here.
I hadn't actually ever seen anything until I started working in the Bawn.
Oh, he doesn't like me up here. Get out, he's saying to me, get out.
There we go.
They believe. The question is, do you?
Can you knock twice for me? Now.
Psychic investigator Andy Matthews is on his way to what's reputed to be the oldest haunted house in County Derry.
I'm an evidence gatherer, so I'll collate and collect whatever evidence I can get through myself, through Marion, our medium, through our investigation team. I think Northern Ireland is probably one of the most haunted places in the world. It's got a magical mystery about it, you know, the myths and legends. It's just dripping with history. And I was really surprised, actually, how open to the paranormal the people are here. Because when you come across something that you don't fully understand, your natural reaction is to find an alternative explanation for it. Oh, that was me. It happens.
Bellaghy Bawn, a former 17th century manor under state care for the last 2 decades, is one of the 12 original Ulster plantation settlements.
Comes from 2 Irish words, Bawn, meaning cow, and Dun, meaning fort. And basically it functioned as a fortified courtyard, somewhere you could retreat in times of warfare.
With many of its original features still intact, the building is steeped in history. Some say the ghosts of Bellaghy's past still resonate in the walls. Andy is inclined to believe them.
It's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle, this place. It's loads of different buildings just added on. And with all the renovation work that's been going on over the years, you know, I wouldn't really be that surprised if it's disturbed certain energies within the building. So, yeah, we could be in for an interesting time here.
Cara Stewart has lived beside the Bawn all her life. She's not the only member of her family to have sensed something unusual here.
We're doing a spring clean of the Bawn for an event that was taking place later in the week. My sister was in the round tower room. She just heard little court shoes coming behind her on the wooden floor. She actually just lifted her bits and bobs, flew down the stairs.
So you feel as though it was a woman, obviously, because of the shoes?
Because of the shoes, yeah. Deep down, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat, but I hadn't actually ever seen anything until I started working in the Bawn. I definitely believe that there's...
Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
I try and get to the bottom of the truth.
And he's not the only one.
I've gone all through my life, from a very young age, being aware of spirit.
Something's down there. It's really a quest to find out the truth behind what happens to us whenever we pass over.
An ancient settlement dating back to the 1600s. Some say the spirits of its past still reside here.
I can't hear you. I hadn't actually ever seen anything until I...
Ever stood in an empty room and felt you weren't alone? Psychic investigator Andy Matthews has.
I try and get to the bottom of the truth.
And he's not the only one.
I've gone all through my life, from a very young age, being aware of spirit.
Something's down there. It's really a quest to find out the truth behind what happens to us whenever we pass over.
An ancient settlement dating back to the 1600s. Some say the spirits of its past still reside here.
I can't hear you. I hadn't actually ever seen anything until I started working in the Bawn.
Oh, he doesn't like me up here. Get out, he's saying to me, get out.
There we go.
They believe. The question is, do you?
Can you knock twice for me? Now.